Without losing its romantic charm, the City of Lights is home to several of the most incredible sights anywhere in Europe. We'll spend 3 days exploring the city, wandering its streets, admiring its monuments, and savoring its culinary delights. We'll begin our first day in Paris along the Seine River to see some of the most famous museums in the world, including the Louvre, the Musee D'Orsay, and the Musee L'Armee at Invalides. On day 2, we'll travel just outside the city to marvel at the Château de Versailles. Then it's back to the Seine River to see the Cathedral of Notre Dame and to catch a ride all the way to the top of the Eiffel Tower. On our third and final day, we'll wander the Champs-Élysées before arriving at the world's most infamous intersection to see the Arc de Triomphe. Finally, we'll shop at the most beautiful mall in Paris before ending our trip on a high note at the Paris Opera. When looking for accommodations, Paris has a lot of options in a variety of styles, price ranges, and locations. Depending on what you want, you could stay closer to the major attractions, but pay a higher price and lose some of the local charm. Alternatively, you could stay farther out in a very traditional neighborhood and pay a bit less, but you'd have to take the metro just to see, well, anything. We made our base in the 9th arrondissement, finding a good balance of price, location, and authenticity. Despite the massive shopping centers and the opera, this district still feels quaint and distinctly Parisian. The businesses are all locally run, including one of our favorite cafes, Café M. With excellent food, great prices, and a wonderful staff, something actually quite common in Paris, we ended up returning here several times during our stay. Just a few blocks away is Hotel Alba. This boutique hotel was once the residence of famous musicians like Louis Armstrong. Inside, the decor screams funky or erotic chic, with enough risque photos to ensure young couples never forget their stay. Like everything here, the elevator to the upper floors is tiny and a funny little experience all on its own. Even better than the wall art in the elevator to the gallows is the price. We booked one of their suites, the largest rooms the Alba offers, and only paid around $300 per night. From our hotel, a short 30-minute walk brings us to our first stop of the day. Grabbing a crepe for a quick breakfast, we're headed to the Louvre. Like every major Parisian site, tickets for the Louvre will sell out in advance, and reservations are required. If you only plan on seeing this one museum, you can purchase your tickets directly from the Louvre website, and they will cost about €32 per person. If you plan on seeing more than one museum, instead of buying tickets individually, you can get a better value with the Paris Museum Pass. This pass will include all 3 museums we're seeing today, as well as the chateaux like Versailles. But even with the Paris Museum Pass, you will still need to make reservations for a timed ticket, and this is where your day will start. In front of the main entrance, there are multiple lines, each with different numbers. These are for the different time slots that you'll find in your reservation. Find the one that corresponds to your ticket and wait. Inside, the museum is divided into 3 different wings: the Richelieu, the Sully, and the Denon. Allow several hours for a visit here, as each one of these wings is massive and takes a long time to navigate. We'll focus on the Sully, home to Greek antiquities like Venus de Milo, and the Denon, home to a variety of European sculptures and paintings like the Mona Lisa. The Sully begins with a brief history of the Louvre, which began as a medieval fortress around the 12th century, then later remodeled several times into the royal palace, which Louis XIV opted to use to display the royal collection, instead making his residence in Versailles. From the French Revolution, the Louvre officially became a museum, now bringing in works from all over the world, including the ancient Egyptian collections. The Sully Wing holds over 50,000 works of artifacts from ancient Egypt, making it one of the largest collections on Earth. The Great Sphinx of Tanis is the first piece in the collection, greeting visitors at the top of the staircase as they enter the exhibit. Stone tablets set with hieroglyphics and books of early forms of stamps highlight the remarkable out of the everyday. Richly decorated sarcophaguses stare right back at the millions of visitors casually looking mortality in the face. The highlight of the Egyptian collection has to be the temple. Moving away from the intimate look at ancient Egypt, the Sully Wing now expands, focusing on the scale of their limestone statues. Leaving Egyptian antiquities and going to the Greek, you'll likely notice the detail placed on the human body, specifically how things like clothes interact in a hauntingly realistic way. Venus de Milo stands at the end of the hall, swarmed by visitors all lined along the front to get the perfect shot. Behind her, Alexander the Great looks on with envy, only getting attention from tour guides looking for a corner to hide in while they ramble on further about the Venus de Milo. For all his accomplishments, poor old Alex just can't compete with a naked woman. The den begins with a climb up a staircase, bringing visitors directly to Winged Victory. While the crowds have only just begun to gather, placing this Greek masterpiece at the top of the staircase with 4 different routes to take onward helps onlookers disperse, and you might actually get to appreciate this famous work for a minute. The same cannot be said for the Grand Gallery. It starts innocently enough, with many of Da Vinci's works featuring the one and only face he seemed to know how to paint, before condensing into a small room for his masterwork, the Mona Lisa. If you want to see her up close, you'll be herded into a massive crowd for what will be at least a 40-minute wait. While Da Vinci's work here is arguably his best, the time you'll get appreciating is painfully short, especially when compared to the claustrophobic wait. Perhaps even more disappointing is directly opposite Mona Lisa. The marriage at Cana goes completely unnoticed. Veronese's depiction of Christ turning water into wine is the largest painting in the Louvre, and it is entirely overshadowed by Mona Lisa. Alexander could empathize. Just past Mona Lisa are many of the great French paintings, notably Géricault's Medusa's Raft, Delaroche's Bonaparte crossing the Alps, and Delacroix's Liberty leading the people. We'll exit the Louvre on this note of French romanticism, making our way through the gardens and toward the Seine River. Along the way, don't forget to stop for a cheap Chinese souvenir from your local hustler. A short 5-minute walk across a bridge to the left bank of the Seine brings you to the Musee D'Orsay. There are no timed entrances or reservations needed. If you're using the Paris Museum Pass, just scan in and you're good. Running out of a converted train station, this is one of my personal favorite museums anywhere in the world. Immediately, you'll notice just how open and quiet it is here, seeing much lighter crowds than the Louvre. You'll still have to deal with the occasional tour group with the guide yapping into their radio, but even their presence doesn't diminish the surprisingly relaxed, calm atmosphere such a major attraction has. In contrast to the Louvre, there's space to breathe and time to take appreciating the artwork. The art featured here is based mostly around the Impressionists and Post-Impressionists, keeping a consistent style and theme to the museum. The hazy work of Monet and Renoir leads into the dreamscapes of Van Gogh, and then to the more realistic tones of Bouguereau. Here you can take your time and appreciate the similarities and differences between the many variations Impressionism takes. Some of the most recognizable pieces displayed are on the 5th floor, where a view from Paris behind the clock tower can be seen. Here you'll find Renoir's Bal du Moulin de la Galette, portraying a classic Parisian scene in Montmartre. It's quintessential Impressionist art, not too abstract but not too photorealistic. It's exactly what its namesake implies. It's an impression. If you look closely enough, You can almost see the subjects of this painting's eyes rolling as I try to pronounce all these French names. Perhaps the one work more well known here comes from Van Gogh. Thought to be his last self-portrait, the wavy, flowing background contrasts with his sharp, unmoving gaze. Leaving the Impressionists behind, we now move on to a purely historic museum. Musee L'Armee at Invalides offers both a fascinating insight into the ingenuity of the machines of war and a somber reminder of the human toll they take. Like Orsay, there is no reservation requirements, and the Paris Museum Pass will get you in right away. The most interesting and unique parts of this museum all revolve around one man. Personal effects belonging to Napoleon are found near the front. His coat, hat, and sword are all kept behind glass, along with his collar of the Legion d'Honneur. Behind the main building is the dome, where Napoleon is buried. Venturing down to the catacombs, you'll come face to face with the Emperor of France. For dinner, we're stopping at a classic Parisian institution. Officially classified as a monument historique, Bouillon Chautier is a small chain of restaurants in Paris dating back to 1896. Offering delicious, typical French dishes for a cheap price and in a gorgeous setting, this place is a hit with locals and tourists alike. To start, the escargot, snails coated in butter, garlic, and pesto, is surprisingly good. The mains, like canard or duck, are prepared simply and well. It's a no-frills kind of establishment in a luxurious setting. In their own words, it's a proper meal for a modest sum. A 40-minute train ride brings us outside of Paris and to Versailles. After making another stop for crepes, it's on to the chateau. The Versailles Palace was originally built as a hunting lodge by Louis XIII. It stayed in this unspectacular fashion until Louis XIV remodeled it, moving the seat of government there. The chateau remained as the royal residence until the March on Versailles of 1789 during the French Revolution, where Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette were forcibly removed from the palace. It's now owned by the French government and open to a visit from anyone. The northern wing of the palace is justifiably the most popular, beginning with the glorious royal chapel. From the chapel, we move on to the salons. The Hercules Salon features a massive Veronese depicting the meal at the house of Simon, where Christ demonstrates that by faith, even the most sinful can be forgiven. The adjacent salons were used by the royal guards and as the original royal bedchambers. The most well-known and photogenic area in the entire palace is the Hall of Mirrors. Despite the heavy crowds, this is the opulence guests come to Versailles to experience. If only for a moment, walking the halls makes anyone feel like royalty. Back in Paris, we're now shifting our focus from earthly kings to the heavenly. Situated on the Ile de Cité on the Seine River, the Cathedral of Notre Dame is awe-inspiring from every viewpoint. Monstrous images of gargoyles, chimeras, and Strix line the outermost points, while the final judgment sits at the center. The Gothic architecture is best appreciated from inside, The cathedral's massive ribbed vaults and stained glass captivating all who enter. While there is no entrance fee, Notre Dame is a working Catholic church holding regular service, so respectful attire is required. Both knees and shoulders must be covered in order to enter. Even in one of the world's most recognizable cities, full of the most recognizable monuments, there is one that stands above the rest. As an eager salesman in Tulum, Mexico once asked me, I wouldn't take my wife to Paris without bringing her to the Eiffel Tower, would I? Before making the ascent, walk along the gardens behind the tower for the perfect photo.
This is where everyone's getting that iconic picture where you can do this.
When ready to make it to the top, guests are corralled into claustrophobic cable cars for a smooth, if not cramped, ride. At the top level, the views of Paris are spectacular, and for a few dollars more, you can take in the scenery with a glass of champagne. Reservations should be made well in advance and only through the official site. Just a few blocks away, we end our night with more Parisian classics. Onion soup, while traditionally a winter dish, is perfect in any weather. And beef tartare, a dish everyone should try once. While the thought of raw beef and egg yolk might sound off-putting, the blend of spices and the freshness of the beef makes this a delicacy. Just as surprisingly good is the Parisian service. Some of the friendliest, nicest service we've ever had have been here in Paris. L'Amour is no exception. After another fantastic meal, we'll head back to the gardens to see the Eiffel Tower shine against the night sky. Perhaps the greatest symbol of French pride and freedom, the Arc de Triomphe was built to honor the men and women who died for France during the French Revolution and the Napoleonic Wars. The tomb of the unknown soldier lies at the base, marked by an eternal flame. To see the arch up close, visitors follow the walkways underground, diving below traffic to emerge safely on the other side. Directly across is the Champs-Élysées. The infamous scenic walkway is a rite of passage for shopaholics everywhere. Back in the 9th arrondissement is another fashionista's dream. The Galeries Lafayette just might be the prettiest shopping mall in all of Europe. A climb to the top floor allows patient visitors to walk along the skywalk, getting the best views of the city's best mall. Conjuring images of masked phantoms and beautiful leading ladies, the Palace Garnier is a must-visit while in Paris. In 1896, the chandelier hanging above the auditorium broke and fell, giving rise to the claims that the opera was haunted, inspiring Gaston Leroux in writing his 1910 novel, The Phantom of the Opera, in which the falling chandelier became a pivotal scene. Paris. Could the cultural imagination ever produce a rival? A city steeped in a timeless beauty, evoking the pains of nostalgic romance and even the coldest of hearts. It's best embodied by a phrase, likewise understood even if it's not known. We'll always have Paris.